Welcome back to the course that is devoted to getting your law firm's website up and running and doing it as quickly and as efficiently as possible to where the finished product is absolutely stellar and you're on your path to success. Now, this lesson is important. I feel like I say all these lessons are important. I wouldn't create the lesson if it wasn't important because that would end up wasting your time and it'd be wasting my time to some degree. But this one is especially important because we're talking about time, the most valuable commodity out there. Time is money. And a great way to help save your time is to help filter the potential phone calls and the potential cases that are coming across your desk through your website. Now, I plan on in the future releasing a video that really expands on, this subject that we're talking about here. Maybe in the future you watch the video and that's what brought you here. But the gist of it is, if your law firm website has a phone number that's available, you're going to get a lot of phone calls explaining or, pleading basically that their case is different from the ones that you don't take. And they want you to take their case. You listen to it, you spend 20, 30 minutes on the phone. And unfortunately, that's 20 or 30 minutes you'll never get back because you eventually tell them you're not going to take the case. If there is a way to automatically filter those cases out, that'd be fantastic, right? Well, that's exactly what we're going to be doing and building and creating in this lesson. So strap in, enjoy the ride for this particular lesson, because what we're going to do is go through the step-by-step process to creating the intake form that you need in order to filter the incoming potential cases, your intake. So, quick reminder, I say this in every lesson, but it's worth saying because people jump around from one video to the next, from one lesson to the next. If you're on YouTube, obviously subscribe, obviously hit the like button, obviously support the Law Venture channel and brand. And then be sure to hit the link that's sliding above my top left, your top right corner up here. And that'll take you over to lawventure.com, or you can always head over to lawventure.com directly. I have LawVenture up right now. If you are signed in and logged in, then you'll see the header that looks something like this. Keeping in mind, make sure that you log in and you sign in. Signing up and logging in is completely free and it allows you to have information and content just like this at your disposal so you can have as much content as you want. So once you are signed in, go and click on courses. As you can see here, we have the course, Build a Law Firm Website Fast. So if you're on YouTube, this is where you need to go. I'm still continuing the course myself, so I'm going to click Continue Course. And this is where you can see each and every lesson that's available. And it's also why it's important that you watch these lessons on LawVenture. And the point here is, for example, if I click this lesson for the Website Essentials, you have the YouTube video that you may have seen on YouTube. But if you scroll down, you also have additional information, step-by-step processes that you need in order to really get the most out of this course. So get your situation figured out, go hop over on LawVenture, and then let's dive into this lesson right now. Here we are at our favorite website, texasclassactionlawyer.com. In the previous lessons, you saw all the little templates that I put together. There are a lot of templates out there that I have on this website right now. To be honest with you, I can't even remember what I chose as the actual homepage, if I chose anything, but that's not important. For this lesson, we're just going to go straight into the details of what you need to do. And step one in this process is kind of piggybacking on the last lesson. And that lesson wasn't a video lesson because it's pretty straightforward, pretty basic, and it can be just taught step by step through text. But to make it a little bit more concrete in this current lesson, when it comes to creating pages, you just want to go over to pages, keeping in mind pages are different from blog posts. Pages stand alone by themselves. In this situation, click on pages. And look at your pages, admire everything you have going on, because this is basically the bulk of the current website that we have right now. And then once you're done admiring, go up and click Add New. And what we're doing here is creating a page for our intake questionnaire / quiz / intake form, whatever you want to call it, to sit on. And so when people click the link on your homepage that says take this quiz now, this is where the link is going to take them. And so figure out what you want to call this page. For example, you can call it your quiz, you can call it your intake form, you can call it, let's see here, what else can I come up with? Can I help? Or is this law firm right for you? I'm going to spell questionnaire out without hopefully misspelling it. I think that's how you spell it. Anyways, if it's not how you spell it, let me know in the comment section down below. Come over to the permalink and make sure that the URL slug looks good. This is what's going to be on texasclassactionlawyer.com/questionnaire when people click on that button. And if you ever want to link someone to the questionnaire, it just looks nice to have a clean URL. You don't want to have something that's like, let me see here. Let me see if I can play with this. That's like this dash that. And that doesn't look good. So figure out what's going to work best. And you don't have to have it be the exact same as the title of the page, but if it's a good title, then it's probably a good URL slug. So let's scroll down, make sure everything is good to go here. What I want in this situation is a blank page. And this is something that you're going to have to figure out whether or not you want to kind of force the person's hand a little bit, because a blank page, if we click preview, a new tab. So we're taking a look at the blank page, and the question that you should be asking yourself is whether or not you want to have the header and whether or not you want to have the footer. Whenever you have a sales page, the rule of thumb is you really don't want to distract from what you're trying to direct the traffic to. So the point here really is that if you have the quiz or questionnaire in the middle, do you want them to maybe look up and be like, oh, let's check out the blog, and then just kind of lose track of where they were originally going? And same with the footer. If we had a footer that was a little bit more expansive to where there were buttons to click and whatnot, then the question is, again, do you want to have the links to the footer? So we can hop back over to this page backend section through WordPress. I have no idea what the technical term for this is. And what we see here is section visibility. Now, with the top section, we can hide it. Oh, excuse me. We want to inherit. With the header, we can hide it. With the footer, we can hide it. Let's do save draft. And then since I didn't close out the preview, I'm just going to go over to that tab and refresh it and see what that looks like. And look, we just have a white screen, right? This is all we have. But we can go up to the top and click Edit with Thrive Architect. Click exactly what we want. We want a completely blank page. And now that we have a completely blank canvas with no distractions, no header, no footer, we can start dropping things in. I'm torn on which one I prefer when it comes to either no header and no footer versus having the header and footer. I'll tell you that stonefirm.law has the header and footer in there. I may change that at some point. I'm still trying to figure out what's going to be optimized for the traffic. So just use your judgment. You may want to actually test it out. Maybe, some weeks try it with the header, some weeks without the header. It's really your call. But at the end of the day, we need to have a page devoted for our quiz or for our quiz to sit on. So with this, I'm just going to keep the settings as is, meaning hiding the header, hiding the footer, and clicking publish. And because it's a page and not a blog post, it's really not going to pop up anywhere. But we have the link right here. Let's scroll through. And this link is what we're eventually going to connect our homepage buttons to. But we don't really need to do that right now. So I'm going to close this panel. I'll click update just to make sure everything is updated. And then I'm going to go back to the dashboard by clicking here. So we have our pages set up, and at this point we need to go to Thrive Dashboard and click on Thrive Quiz Builder, keeping in mind that a number of lessons ago, I've kind of lost count, we installed Thrive Quiz Builder. If you didn't do that, then what you need to do is go on or click on Product Manager and then click on Thrive Quiz Builder, install it. Then once it's installed, you'll come over here and then we're back to being on the same exact plan and schedule. So click on Thrive Quiz Builder, and we're going to add a new quiz. And let's build this one from scratch. Click continue. We'll call this quiz questionnaire. Click continue. Okay, so at this point, we need to change type. What we're doing here is we're going to click category. And what I want you to do is, one, you need to be aware of the fact that Thrive Themes has built the quiz builder in order to grow an email list for small entrepreneurs. For example, I use the quiz builder on Law Venture in order to get people to join the community eventually. And it's really not intended directly for a law firm's intake. So we have to make some changes. We have to make some tweaks in order to make sure it's optimized for our needs here. So I'm going to click continue. Now, here's the tricky part, right? First, well, let's break it down by category. I recommend at this point in time that you really do the thought tree of what you want your quiz to look like. And I'll give you an example by hopping over to stonefirm.law. Here I have my quiz 1.0, and honestly, I need to go back and update it and kind of beef it up a little bit and make some changes. But here's the version 1.0. People, they start the quiz, they come to this question, which best describes your situation. Is it car wreck, this, or that? If they choose one of these three options over here, then that's going to basically put them in a certain category. And the categories that I have are basically, I'll take the case. Actually, I can show you. Let me see here. I have not the right firm. This firm may be able to help you with your car wreck, class action insurance, property only, slight injuries, liability issue, class action security breach. And so with these categories, what I've basically created is, if somebody goes through the quiz and they basically get through all the questions, and it's only 5 questions because I can figure out whether or not I'll take the car wreck case in 5 questions. If they go through this and basically pass the test, if they survive the filtering process, then the category that they'll fall into is, this firm may be able to help you with the car wreck. If they come in and immediately say their case doesn't involve any of these 3 and it's other, well, I try and be pretty strict with my intake form in this quiz, meaning if these broad categories, this initial threshold question doesn't really trigger the next step, then I'm just going to go ahead and shut it down and say that this isn't the right firm, because we only handle and take cases that fall under these 3 categories. And so that's where this one is triggered. If it's a class action insurance, and that's that category. Property only, and that category is triggered as we go down here to where it says, were you injured in the car wreck? If it's yes, then hey, you may need a personal injury lawyer. If it's no, then I don't take non-injury cases. I know maybe some lawyers do, but that's not for me. That's not for my law firm. And so by going to this point, by having this no, that triggers the category. And you may be thinking, okay, Jarrett, I understand. What are categories for? The categories, once somebody fits inside a category, that will show them their designated results page. And in doing so, you can tailor the results to basically tell and explain exactly why you don't take the case. Now, you could cop out. You could totally just have this category of not the right firm, and that's all that is said when somebody doesn't basically, quote, pass the test. And you can keep it short, simple, and say this firm isn't for you. That seems a little cold, a little harsh. I like to give a little bit of an explanation on why. For example, if they were in a car wreck but they weren't injured and they end up, fitting in this category, why I don't take the case, and I go through the rationale of why I don't handle property only. That way, maybe next time if they are in a car wreck and they are injured, I hope that never is the case, then maybe there's a bit more of a connection to where they're like, okay, that lawyer's website was actually, pretty helpful and insightful, and it made a good impression, and maybe they come back. Maybe not, who knows, but at least I'm putting out the good vibes that may be reciprocated at some point. But again, it really depends on what you want to do, what you're trying to achieve here. If you want to keep things simple, basic, if you don't want to have multiple pages or result pages that you're having to build, then, I don't really blame you for just having, sorry, not the right firm, and being that. I'll show you what result pages look like as we go along here. But at this point, getting to my recommendation before I went through this explanation, I recommend that you write this out. at this stage, you have your introductory, like let's just start filtering things from the very beginning. And then you have your tree, your branch that is created based on answers. And then again, you're going to have your stopping points for each point. Don't worry about that as you're writing it out. Well, you'll get the categories. But once you're done, then you're basically ready to create your categories. It could be yes or no. It could be just like, a 1 or a 0 if you think of binary code there. But when you do this, also keep in mind that you want to simplify and keep the quiz as short as possible. The issue is, and you do have the option, if we come over here to this gear, you can put a progress bar, or, whenever you are creating your questions, you can have, question 1 of 5, question 2 of 5, or something like that. But if somebody, in my situation, answers one of these 3, and they're already being directed to a results page, which looks a little weird, right? It's like, okay, 1 of 5, and you're done. Don't even go to 2. Do not pass the go straight to jail kind of thing. So I have this to where it doesn't show, but on all my buttons on the home page, it's just like, hey, take this 2 to 3 minute quiz, because I kept it really condensed, really short, to where, again, there's at most going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions involved, and that at least lets me know whether or not I'm interested in hearing more. So go through maybe a couple, scratch pieces of paper and really try and condense everything. And you may end up, in your situation, if your law firm does more than, for example, car wrecks, you may end up having to have multiple little trees coming off of one another. For example, this may take someone else down another road. For example, I may do slip and falls, to where whenever I created this, I wasn't very intrigued in slip and fall cases. Then I had a good slip and fall in the last year, and I'm like, okay, maybe I don't want to funnel those out. That actually came from a previous client whose mother slipped and fell, and he had my cell phone number, so I didn't have to worry about the quiz in that situation. But the point here is you can always come back and make changes if you need to. But for now, I recommend going through the scratch sheet of paper, figuring out exactly what you want, and in doing so, once you're done, once it's polished, you're going to figure out the categories. So in this situation, endpoint, endpoint, endpoint. That's 3 categories right there. Endpoint right there. That's 4. Oh, endpoint right there. I almost skipped. That's 5. And then it's also going to be, well, this is an endpoint, but it's the same, like, sorry, this firm isn't for you. And then there's the, yes, this firm may be able to help. So that's, that's 6, and then 7. And so what I did in this situation was take the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 categories, typed them all in there. They don't really see the categories, and so this one is a little excessive, it's a little long. But I recommend that you figure out exactly how you want to put these categories in here to where they make sense to you down the road. Whenever you see property only, you know exactly what it means. So in this situation, what I'm going to do is just say, just for the sake of keeping things as quick as possible, yes, no, but I recommend you have a little bit more detail. So at this point, I do want to click don't display feedback, because this isn't a quiz to where they have wrong answers and it's like, oh, nope, you're close, but choose another one. So with don't display feedback, it helps, really keep it just straightforward. They answer it, and then they get the results as they answer. So save. Let's choose a quiz style here. Looks like they've updated this, so there's a number of styles that I probably haven't seen. So let's take a look. I'm gonna go with Old Reliable here. I'm kind of a minimalist when it comes to internet website page design, whatever it's called. So I'm going to choose style there. And we do want to ignore this button right here, because, we're not trying to trend on Twitter about, this amazing BuzzFeed-like intake form. And so what we do need to do at this point is create our questions. So let's click Manage. Let's add a question. Let's make it multiple choice, but you can also go with images if you really want to, have a visual pop, but I'm going to do multiple choice with buttons. And at this stage, you can do text question, video question, audio question. I'll just do a text question. Oops, I don't know how that snuck in there. You can add a description to where, if you want to add extra detail that really puts in context exactly what's being asked, that's great. That's fantastic. So in this situation, I'm going to skip it for the sake of this lesson, but the more information, the more oriented people are, the better. Are you hurt? Yes. New answer. No. And we want to stick it with a category. We have the category yes. It just happens to be the same. No. And then we're good to go. This is the basics of basics. And by the way, just to get you a little oriented here, the weights, if you are maybe trying to figure out if you're interested in the case, maybe something's like, yeah, he thinks or she thinks he or she is, 49% at fault, then maybe you want to try and go through a filtering process involving like, okay, let's put 1 point towards them, or let's knock them for 1 point, and then ultimately their overall grade determines whether or not you're interested in the case. That's pretty advanced when it comes to this intake form, and props to you if that's the path you want to take. For now, for the sake of this, I'm going to go ahead and just deselect it and click Save. You basically at this stage just want to rinse and repeat, right? You're going to add a question, multiple choice buttons. Is your leg hurt? Because I only take leg cases. Must be the right leg. On your calf as well. I'm just winging this. Okay. Yes. No. Category. Yes. Category. No. We're going to save it. Let's move this bad boy down here and let's start creating our little tree. And so what you can do here is no matter what they answer, you can connect it to the next question. But we're not going to do that because what we want to do is if you're hurt, then yeah, I'm interested. But tell me more. Is your leg hurt? And I'm going to delete this. It's like, okay, if your leg's hurt, now I'm definitely interested. And so what's happening here is we're looking at the category. So it's like, are you hurt? No. Okay, that's going to the end page category of no. Is your leg hurt? No. Okay, don't want the case either. And so those are going to the same pages right there. Yes, we have it going to the category involving this right here. Do you know what, guys? I hate to do this to you. I just realized I goofed with this previous one, and I don't feel like going back and recording this again. Whenever you have a yes and you're moving on with the branch, you actually want to have this category be none. Because what ends up happening, and I haven't done this in a minute, and it's just all coming back to me right now, is that you don't want this category to be answered yet, right? It makes sense because if they answer yes, then you don't want them to fall in the yes category, because if they come down and answer no, then they need to be in the no category. So if the tree is continuing, the point here is you want to let the category be none until it's flushed out. So at this stage, if this is the last question, if these are the only two questions that I need to ask in order to, figure out if I want the case, at the stopping points, those are when you want to have your categories. So here we have categories on both. For here, we have categories on just one because this is the stopping point there. Sorry for making you have to go all the way back. Hopefully you weren't too into the weeds here and you're kind of following along with the lesson. But that's something that's important, that it's going to make everything work and be cohesive. So go through your entire quiz. You're going to just rinse and repeat it. You're going to connect either with this dot, you're going to connect with that dot, you're going to connect with this dot. Again, this one is for no matter what the answer is, it's going. This one is, if it's no, we'll connect it there. You can also, if it's a no and you still want to figure out exactly what's happening, is, let's say, category no, save. So you can connect this one over here, and then you can, basically just play around with this. Or do you have red hair? Yes. Okay. Even though you're not hurt, you do have red hair. So is your leg hurt? Because obviously that makes a ton of sense. But as you can tell, I just connected this as a joke, and I realized that this is, it's none. Okay, so we're good there. It's a lot of rinse and repeating, as you can probably tell. But once you have this fleshed out, once you really can kind of figure out exactly how you can ask the least amount of questions and get the most information from it, click save and exit. You can always come back and make tweaks if something doesn't work out well. So results page, let's hold off on that. Let's add a splash page. And then what we're going to do is click manage. We're going to come over here and click this little pencil. The way I said that, it was like pencil, like a question. And then now you can edit how the quiz is going to look. Keep in mind, we're going to drop this entire, kind of page looking thing inside the page we created earlier. So what you can do is obviously throw a photo in the background and, let's see here. Let's play around a little bit. Let's get this bad boy to load. Background section. And then you can upload a photo that you may have by going over to photo, drop that in the back, and then start, kind of figuring out what's going to look like what. This, I'll say, is going to take a little bit of trial and error, no pun intended for all my trial lawyers out there, because what we're going to end up doing, again, is dropping this into the page. And so you kind of are going to go back and forth with the pages to make sure they all look good. But for the sake of just simplicity, I'm going to keep this the same. If you're watching this lesson and you've gone through the previous lessons, I'm hoping at this point you're pretty comfortable with Thrive Architect and creating something that looks good, that looks decent on both laptop, computer, and on the mobile device similar to this. Okay, so I'm going to save work. I'm going to exit out of this, and then we're going to go back to our questionnaire. Gotta love the breadcrumbs. Results page. We want to manage. And in this situation, what we're going to do is click this little pencil. That way we can edit to our heart's desire. Okay, so at this stage, we can start editing exactly how we want to make this thing look. To give you a little bit of orientation, let's head over to stonefirm.law. I can kind of show you my version 1.0 that I created. So here's this isn't the right firm for you. As you can see, I have a text at the very top, and then I have columns, and inside the column is a text, and then I put a little image graphic in there, and then I explain exactly why this firm isn't the right firm for you. I don't know what I was just reading and thinking and saying at the same time. And then add a little bit of a personal touch. I plan on actually, for my version 2.0 and 3.0, including videos that help explain this a little bit more. That way, again, personal touch makes it a little bit better. Here's this firm may be able to help. I just went ahead and put the personal touch of the photo here, walk through some of the things, and then have links to the intake form that we'll talk about in a second. But as you can see here, this has a text. There's an image below it, and this is all inside a content box inside the dynamic content of the quiz builder. Another series of text links that ultimately go to the intake form, and I basically rinse and repeat the results pages on how I wanted them to look. For example, actually, let's go back. So it's time to talk about it. I think at this point, just kind of organically figured out exactly how I want to do this lesson. So with this page, what I ended up doing is having links to the Google intake form that all of my clients end up visiting and taking in order to figure out, or to give me all the information that I need in order to get their case set up. The way I frame this is to basically say, hey, this is an intake form that gives me all the preliminary information. I'll be sure to reach out to you, give you a call based on the information that you provide in your questionnaire, meaning the Google intake form. And then what ends up happening is people go through this intake quiz. I'm saying, quiz on the site. They click the link. It takes them to Google Forms. And once they complete the Google Forms that I created, I get an email alert through Google Forms automatically that says, hey, somebody just filled out an intake form. And because I know that only people who are going to reach the intake form are people who pass this filtering process here, I know that's, something that needs to catch my attention, and, somebody I probably need to give a call. So I look at the intake form, give them a call, and then, talk out exactly, what their case situation is before trying to sign them up. So kind of figure out what your flow is going to be. The alternative flow, if you don't want to use the Google intake form, is to do something like I have over here with like the class actions, to where class actions are really hard to have an intake form with, because there are just so many different scenarios of what may be going on. And so I ended up going with just a contact form to where they can type everything that's going on. Or maybe I could have pushed it, I guess, to a Google form that was just very basic, but I decided in this situation, let's just keep it all on site. And that way, whenever they send a message, I get the message as well. And it lets me know that this is for a class action. So there's two approaches you can take. And, if maybe you can think of another approach that works, feel free to do whatever works best for you. Keeping in mind, I use Google, I think it's called Workspace now. And through Google Workspace, I can use Google Forms. I think if you have a regular Gmail account, you can use Google Forms for free. You may have to double check that, because Google has been updating and really growing their Workspace, product as a whole, which includes a lot of things. And so they may be changing what's free and what's not free. So double check on that. But if you don't know how Google Forms work, what I'm going to do is link above the video that I created a while back that walks you step by step on how you can use Google Forms to create your intake form. And you can basically watch the step-by-step process of how that was created. And then I'll also provide a link in the body of this lesson that you can, eventually go and check out in case you just want to keep watching this video. And that way you don't have to scrub all the way back to this point in the video, click the sliding link, and make it a little bit more convenient in this situation. So with all that said, that's kind of the end product here, right? It's eventually funneling to eventually be able to talk to the potential clients. And so what I recommend you do is go through your categories. Sorry, I had to wait for that to load. Go through your categories and build the page for each category that you have. Okay, so we're back over at texasclassactionlawyer.com. This is basically the opposite of what we want. This isn't anything close to what a law firm is going to need for their intake form and their questionnaire, because social shares irrelevant, right? We don't need that. Share results, we don't need that. What we do need is to come up to the add element indicator here, come all the way down to dynamic content, and let's drop that below the text. And this is what we were seeing over at stonefirm.law, to where this is the content that people are going to see if they fall in the yes category. This is the content that they're going to see if we click here, if they follow or fall in the no category. So let's hop over to yes, and we can start making changes here, keeping in mind this isn't a quiz result where the result's going to be like, hey, you have the personality of an NFL superstar. And that's not what we're doing here. We want to have content that's devoted to the answer. And so this right here can be deleted. This can be deleted. Now, at this point, you can right away, you can drop in images. You can do something very similar to what I did. And so what we're going to do in this situation is, let's add some columns. Let's put it inside of the dynamic content. Let's do this. We want to put this inside of the dynamic content as well. So we're going to put above. Oh, it actually says dynamic content right there. Yeah, let's delete that. We don't need that. And this little dynamic content box, if we go up to our handy dandy breadcrumbs, is what ends up holding everything. And in this situation, we have a content box that is holding the dynamic content, but it is what it is. So this is important because dynamic content box is really going to be what is specific to each category that you have. For example, if we head back over to the Stone Firm one, we can click here. See, you have text inside the content box inside of the dynamic content. If you want to, be kind of like the stonefirm.law one, you can drag by going to the breadcrumbs the dynamic content box out of the below content box, but I'm just going to keep it in there or not. I accidentally missed it. So in either event, we're going to delete it. So what you can do in this situation is do something very basic. very similar to what we just saw. Drop an image in here. Maybe that's an image of you. We'll get to that later. And we'll drop in a little bit of an explanation, such as, hey, this is why we'll accept your case, and maybe hype yourself up a little bit, and then ultimately link them, such as a hyperlink. And you can do hyperlinks through this little button up here. Do the URL to your Google intake form, click insert, or keep in mind you can select it to open a new tab or not. So we can do stonefirm.law insert, and then all of this is just like regular text. And so anyways, all of that, you can really edit this how you want. Just keep in mind it needs to be in this dynamic content box. Can't stress that enough. You'll do something very similar over here with your dynamic content box that's specific here. And keep in mind the reason why what we had earlier, that success and all of the Twitter stuff, why that is no longer here is because we deleted it from the foundational elements of the results page, not the dynamic content box. The dynamic content box is going to be subjective. That what we were deleting earlier is going to be objective across the board, no matter the search results. So we can just type away here. You can drop progress bar, like success, you made it, and then have the progress bar do its thing. And at the end of the day, what you need to do, and I'll delete this just for the sake of it. I'm going to put failed. And then I'm going to save work. All changes saved. I'm going to just close this. I can always come back. And at this point, let's go back to our questionnaire. So we have this setup, we have this setup, we have this setup, we have this setup, we have this setup. Okay, it's looking good. So let's go back to pages, and I'm actually going to right click it, open link in new tab. That way I can always come back here and make changes based on what needs to be made. Let's go to questionnaire. Let's just jump straight into Thrive Architect. I'm going to open up a new link. Head over to Thrive Architect, wait for it to load. And let's go ahead and drop in a very specific element, which looks like quiz. So let's drop it. Oh, well, let me drop it in there. So let's just drop it right here. Questionnaire is our quiz. And then boom, that's the take the quiz in order to get it. So let's do background section, layout. Let's move it around to where it's not all the way at the very top. And this is what people will end up seeing whenever they click the link. So let's just give it a little bit of a test drive. Save work. Let's do the modern homepage. Let's take a look at that bad boy. Open up with Thrive Architect. By the way, this template is available for you to download if you want to download it. I'll put a link to not only this template, but the other templates that I've made using Thrive themes. That way you can check it out and use it and change it or build upon it, do whatever you want to do with it. But what we wanted to do in this situation is click on this button, target URL, paste our link, figure out if you want to open it in a new tab or if you want to take them directly to the quiz. If you open in a new tab, then they can always come back to the home page by exiting the questionnaire. If you don't open in a new tab, then the only way they're going to come back to this wonderful home page is by, basically hitting the back button or, swiping. Is it to the right? I'm a little disoriented here, but let's save work right here. And you'd want to apply this to all the buttons that you have, but for the sake of keeping this lesson as condensed as possible, we're going to save. Let's preview. We're going to scroll to our button that we just activated, click it. There's our quiz. We have Powered by Thrive Quiz Builder. We can always take that off. Start quiz. Are you hurt? Yes. Is your yes. Congratulations. La 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 la. And that's exactly how the intake form works. We just went through a very basic version of it, but you get the gist at this point. Once you have the foundation laid to where it works, there's buttons, then it's all about going back and really optimizing it. So it's at this point that I would try and make this look pretty. But I would probably want to take it a step further by exiting out here, clicking one more time, and trying to get a sense of every single option, making sure that works. So in this situation, now clicking no, and then clicking, was it yes? No, oh, dang it. Okay, I got it right. So failed, not the right firm. So we have the results there. We would obviously want to make this a whole lot better and not just failed, not the right firm, which I have to say is actually pretty hilarious just because it's so minimalistic and it's just like, no, just go away. But that's how you basically build your intake. That's how you automate your intake. That's how you make your website work for you. And that's how you make your life a whole lot easier. Okay, and if you're like me, it's probably going to annoy you having the Powered by Thrive quiz builder. As much as I love Thrive, as much as I support Thrive, as much as I really try and promote Thrive, my law firm website is really not the website to do it. Law Venture, okay, maybe, but I want to really, minimize the text. So what I recommend you do is head back over to the back end of the website where the quiz builder is. And as you can see here, we are right where we need to be. Go up to settings and then click off and click save. At that point, you're sitting pretty. You're looking really good. You can always go back to the quiz. For example, we have the results here, refresh it, and take it a million times to make sure everything works, everything looks good, everything's being routed in the correct path. But like I said, the goal here is to make your life a whole lot easier. And then be sure to also test your intake form. Make sure it's automated if you're using Google. Check out that video. And then also even make sure that your contact form that's on your website works as well, to where you're going to have to try and reach out to yourself and make sure that you're receiving those messages. Last thing you want to do is put a contact form that doesn't work, and it turns out you're just leaving a lot of cases out there in the abyss that you're not responding to. That's not good business right there. So that sums up this lesson, and I'll be the first to admit that I really tried to condense this one down. I tried to push through it, tried to be quick and concise. And in doing so, I run the risk of maybe leaving something out or maybe not providing enough information. If that's the case for you, if you were like, Jared, I wish you would have expanded on this or that, then be sure to not only be on lawventure.com within the particular lesson. For example, as you can see, we're within lesson number 1. Scroll all the way down. Wait for the comment section to load. Leave your comment with your comments, question, concern, thoughts, or just like curiosity, and then I'll be sure to answer them. I'm happy to answer any comments, questions, concerns, yada, yada, yada. If there are any gaps, then I always try and bridge the gaps within the body of the lesson. If there are any additional resources that I think will be helpful, I'll put those in the body of the lesson as well. But with all that said, I'll let you go create your intake form, go get that automation in place, and go have a great and incredible law firm website that does the work for you.